Welcome back, dear children, back to our biology class. And in the previous class, we talked about the biological classification, in which we discussed the two kingdom system of classification, the five kingdom system of classification. And we started with the first kingdom, that was kingdom Monera. Right? The five kingdom system of classification was put forward by R.H. Whitaker. So in the kingdom Monera, we discussed that the kingdom Monera is divided into two groups, Archaebacteria and Eubacteria. So we discussed Archaebacteria in the previous class, and the general characteristics that we discussed about bacteria was that they are cosmopolitan, found everywhere, right? And they are found, even if you pick up a handful of soil in your hand, even that will contain many bacteria, right? So we discussed that they are found in even the extremes of climate. Then we talked about the forms of bacteria, in which we discussed about coccus, that is the spherical bacteria. Then we talked about bacillus, the rod-shaped, spirillum, spiral-shaped, and vibrio, that was comma-shaped, right? So four shapes we discussed of the bacteria found. And then we talked about the mode of nutrition. Bacteria being photosynthetic, that is autotrophic, as well as heterotrophic. Under autotrophic, we talked about chemosynthetic and the photosynthetic bacteria, and heterotrophic, they are parasites or saprophytes, right? So that was about the mode of nutrition. And then we discussed in detail the Archaebacteria, that is the primitive type of bacteria. And also, yes, one more important thing, the most important thing that we talked about bacteria was that they have a prokaryotic cell, right? So Archaebacteria are the primitive bacteria, and under Archaebacteria we talked about methanogens, halophiles, and thermoacidophiles. Methanogens, methane producing bacteria. Halophiles, they have affinity or love towards salt. And then we talked about thermoacidophile, and affinity towards high temperature and even high acidic content, high acidity, right? So these were the characteristics, these were the types of Archaebacteria that we discussed. And we also talked about a particular kind of the cell wall that they have. They don't have the normal peptidoglycan cell wall, but their cell wall is made up of proteins and non-cellulosic polysaccharides. And we also discussed that there is a presence of a monolayer, single layer of branched chain of lipids, right? So that was about the Archaebacteria. And now I told you in the next class we will be talking about Eubacteria or the true bacteria. So as discussed earlier, kingdom Monera is divided into Archaebacteria, which we've already discussed, and today we will talk about Eubacteria or the true bacteria, right? Eubacteria or the true bacteria. Now, what do we mean by a Eubacteria or a true bacteria? In the previous class we discussed about PPLO also, right? Pleuropneumonia-like organisms, and we said that they are the jokers of the plant kingdom, right? Okay, back again to Eubacteria. Now, if we look at the structure of Eubacteria, this is called the true bacteria, we find that this is the structure of a bacterial cell, right? So whenever we draw this structure, this is a prokaryotic cell. Now, if you're asked to draw the structure of a prokaryotic cell, still you will draw the same diagram, right? So the bacterial cell or a prokaryotic cell, right? So looking at this prokaryotic cell or the bacterial cell, what we see is that the outermost layer, the one that I have drawn in black color, the outermost layer is the mucilage. Right, now what is the mucilage? Mucilage is a kind of a slimy, sticky layer that is found outside the bacterial cell. It is a kind of a protective layer, right? So that is the mucilage, which they develop later on as a protective layer. Inner to the mucilage, you will see this layer. This is the cell wall, right? So the cell wall of a true bacteria is made up of peptidoglycan plus amino acid, right? So peptidoglycan plus amino acid, it is also known as murine, right? I'll write those terms later. Murine. It is also known as murine, and it forms a kind of a mesh. Mesh means a net-like structure, right? This peptidoglycan and amino acid, which is collectively called murine, it forms a mesh-like structure outside. And then also we find that there is a layer on the outermost layer of the cell wall. We find that it is inlaid with lipopolysaccharide also. That means lipids are also present, right? So that's about the cell wall. What is the function of the cell wall? That it is the outer rigid covering of the cell which gives shape to the cell. Cell wall is found only in the plant cells, and here we are talking about the bacteria. It is not found in any animal cell, right? So the cell wall. Now if you would ask what is the outermost layer of a bacterial cell. So the outermost layer of the bacterial cell is a cell wall. You will not write mucilage, right? Because that is developed later as a protective layer. Mucilage is not the outermost layer. The cell wall is the outermost layer, right? Inner to the cell wall is the cell membrane, the one that I've drawn in blue color, right? That is the cell membrane. Cell membrane is a selectively permeable membrane, as we've talked about in previous classes, in the junior classes, and the cell wall is a freely permeable membrane, right? Freely permeable means it allows everything to enter and exit, whereas the cell membrane does not, right? So inner to the cell membrane, this is the content or the matrix, right? Now this matrix together, that is the fluid that is there, along with all the substances that are present inside this fluid, it is known as cytoplasm, right? So the matrix, the main content inside the cell is called the cytoplasm. Now what does the cytoplasm of a bacterial cell contain? It is granular, right? Granular means there are many granules of, you will see, fat, lipids, right? Then you will find there are granules all inlaid. There are granules of phosphorus, there are granules of sulfur, there are iron granules that are found, right? And then apart from these, you will find fatty acids, lipids, etc. And various vacuoles. You will find many gas vacuoles also inside, right? So that is the content of the cytoplasm. Now apart from that, you will also find certain cell organelles, right? So whatever we talked about, the lipid, the food, sulfur, etc., all that forms the reserve food material, right? And other than that, the organelles that are found inside the cytoplasm, you will see here, this is ribosome, right? And since it is a prokaryotic cell, so the type of ribosome present is the 70S type, right? This is a primitive ribosome, and in all the prokaryotic cells, 70S type of ribosomes are present, and in all the eukaryotic cells, it is the 80S type of ribosome present, right? So that's about the ribosome. And apart from the ribosome, you will find here, this is the RNA, right? RNA is also interspersed inside. And then you will also see that the inner membrane, that is the plasma membrane, attached to it is a structure called mesosome, right? So that is related to the nucleoids it contains, right? So this is the mesosome, and just below it you will find the nucleoid here. This is the nucleoid, right? A very characteristic feature of a prokaryotic cell. What is this? What is the importance of this nucleoid? Like when we talk about a prokaryotic cell, we say that a prokaryotic cell is that cell which does not have a well-developed nucleus. What is a well-developed nucleus? We've been discussing in the previous classes that it does not have the nuclear membrane. Now if you look at this nucleoid here, right, this entangled mass is actually the DNA of the bacteria. Right, what kind of a DNA it is? It is just one single strand of a double-stranded, right? Two strands and just one. There are not many of these double-stranded, right? So it's a single strand, and That means we can say one DNA. What does one DNA? One DNA is made up of double strand, right? So this is coiled in such a manner that it may look as if there are many strands of DNA present, right? But no, this is only one strand, but they are coiled and entangled like this. And another characteristic feature is that this DNA, which is the nucleoid, is not found dispersed in the whole cytoplasm or not found in any corner of the cell, right? So it is found here at a particular place. This nucleoid is found, right? Another thing, we see that all the membrane bound organelles like the mitochondria etc. are absent in a bacterial cell, which is a prokaryotic cell, right? So any organelle which is a membrane bound organelle will not be present in a prokaryotic cell. We come to the other characteristic feature is that you will see that the membrane, the cell membrane or the plasma membrane has an extension with a basal layer, right? An extension like a whip, right? Which comes outside the cell. You can see I have darkened it with blue, right? So a base arising from the plasma membrane coming out like a whip, right? Now this structure is known as flagellum, right? Singular is flagellum and plural is flagella, right? So flagellum, this is the organ of locomotion in bacteria, right? Only the flagellum is the organ of locomotion in bacteria, right? What is this flagellum made up of? It is made up of a protein known as flagellin. So from the name of the protein flagellin, the term flagellum has arisen, right? So flagellum made up of protein, a whip-like structure used for locomotion, right? Other than this flagellum, you can still see some structures which I have not darkened, but they are also arising from the plasma membrane, right? Now these structures which are smaller than the flagellum but arising from the same place, that is the plasma membrane, which I have not darkened, I have labelled it as pili, right? Now pili, now these are also thread-like structures, and many people think that even these help in locomotion. But pili does not help in locomotion, and this is one structure which is found in only certain bacteria. They are not found in every bacteria, right? Now those bacteria which possess this pili, they are known as donor bacteria, right? Now why they are known as donor bacteria? Because at the time of reproduction, the genetic material is transferred from this donor bacteria to the other bacteria through this pili, right? So what does this pili do? It elongates and forms a tube which connects to another bacteria, and through the tube this DNA can pass and go to the next bacteria, right? So we will discuss that part in detail, but just to tell you that pili is a structure not related to locomotion, found only in certain bacteria, and those bacteria which contain the pili are known as the donor bacteria. And hypothetically, since they are the donors, we've given it a term, they are known as male bacteria. Nothing to do with the male or the female as such, but since they are the donor bacteria, so they are called the male bacteria, right? So that's about the structure of a bacterial cell or the structure of a true bacteria, right? So it's again a prokaryotic cell, and we've discussed the various structures that are present. We talked about the pili and the flagellum also, right? Now knowing what is the pili, now we come to the next part of eubacteria, which is reproduction, right? So we all know what is reproduction: producing a copy which is similar to the parent organism, forming an offspring which resembles the parent organism, right? So that is what is called reproduction. right? So we will start with the reproduction in bacteria. Reproduction in bacteria. And this being a prokaryotic cell, what is amazing is in bacteria also we find two types of reproduction, right? Asexual, and we also find sexual reproduction in bacteria, right? It being a prokaryotic cell. Now when we say sexual reproduction, there are no different kinds of sexes that are there in the bacteria, but still we will discuss how is it a sexual reproduction. Just before that, let's see what is asexual reproduction. I am not going to explain the asexual reproduction in great detail because in the first class we've already talked about asexual reproduction. So we will just see how asexual reproduction takes place in bacteria, right? There are two kinds of asexual reproduction in bacteria. The first is the binary fission, right? Binary fission, bi means two, right? Fission, dividing, right? Dividing of a single cell into two cell is binary fission. And a quick recap of how binary fission takes place. First of all, the nucleus elongates, a constriction, a depression is formed, and then it divides into two different nucleus, and after the division of the nucleus, the cytoplasm also divides, right? So that leads to formation of two separate cells. So that is binary fission in bacteria, right? The second type of asexual reproduction is sporulation, formation of spores, right? Now this kind of reproduction, sporulation in bacteria takes place during unfavorable conditions. Now what are unfavorable conditions? When the climatic condition outside does not favor the growth of bacteria, the reproduction of bacteria. So that kind of a condition is known as unfavorable condition. Now the bacteria does not die in the unfavorable condition. What does it do? It forms a kind of a covering around itself, and that covering is known as a cyst. Now this cyst is capable to provide all the nutrition to the cells inside, right? And what happens is the cell is alive, right? The bacteria inside divides into many, and the cyst remains covered till favorable conditions are there, right? So once the favorable conditions arise, the cyst bursts open and it releases many spores of these bacteria, right? So then they lead an independent life. So that's about sporulation. And now we come to the sexual reproduction in bacteria. So sexual reproduction, as I told you, is a very interesting kind of reproduction that we observe in bacteria, right? Even though there are no separate sexes formed, but still there is sexual reproduction, right? So let's talk about this sexual reproduction in bacteria. Now sexual reproduction in bacteria is of three types, right? The first is conjugation, right? Now in conjugation, what happens? As I told you, this process of conjugation takes place in dimorphic bacteria. I'm writing the term, right? Dimorphic. Di means two, and morphic is the morphology, or we can say the outward appearance, right? So this takes between dimorphic cells of bacteria, two different cells of bacteria, right? Now I told you that two types of bacteria, ones that have pili present and ones that do not have the pili present, right? So obviously They are two different types. Morphologically, the outward appearance is different. One without the pili and one with the pili. So that makes it dimorphic, right? So one with the pili. Now this pili is also referred to as sex pili, right? Why? Because it helps in the transferring of the gene, right? This sexual reproduction is also known as gene recombination, right? This is also known as gene recombination. The genes, they unite to form a new gene, right? So gene recombination. Right, so we were talking about the dimorphic. Now what is the first type of cell? The ones that have pili, they are known as, we write it as F plus, right? The ones that have pili, they are the donor cells. Donor, they are the ones that transfer their gene into another bacteria. That is why they are the donors, and since they are donor, they are known as the male cells, right? Hypothetically male. The second type, this dimorphic, right? The second type is the one that does not have the pili present, so we represent it as F minus, right? They are the recipient. They receive the gene from the donor. They receive the gene, right? So they are the recipient cells, and they are known as, since they are receiving, so they are known as the female cells, right? So that's about the dimorphic cells in bacteria that helps in conjugation, that performs this type of reproduction, that is conjugation. Now what happens is, as I told you, pili is the extension of the protoplasm, right? Now this pili, it elongates, right? Elongates means it increases in length. When it elongates, it forms a kind of a bridge, right? And it connects to the cell that is nearby, that is the female cell, right? You know how it is a female cell. It connects to it. Now this bridge is also known as the conjugation tube, right? Now from the cell inside, the gene is transferred. It travels through this conjugation tube, which is the pili, and enters into the female cell, right? And this takes place in around 6 to 8 minutes, right? This whole process takes 6 to 8 minutes to finish, right? And then the gene exchange occurs. So that's about the sexual reproduction called conjugation, right? The next type of reproduction that we will talk about is transformation. Transformation. Right. So in transformation, what happens? Let me write it first. Transformation gets transformed, right? So now in this transformation, what happens is that a living bacteria, let me just show the bacteria like this, right? And this is the flagellum. Now a living bacteria, like this, right, is found surrounded by a medium, right? Some medium, right? And the genetic material is found in the medium, right? Now this bacteria has the ability to absorb the genetic material from the medium, right? The medium may not be a living medium, right? So it has the ability to absorb the gene from the medium, right? And this absorption does not take place at any time in the bacteria. So there is a specific time when this transformation can take place. So the receptivity of transformation is present only for a very brief time, very little time in the bacteria, and that is when the cells have reached almost their maturity, their growth, right? They're almost towards completing their growth. It is then that they are active, and only for that brief period of time they are able to absorb the gene from the surrounding medium. They absorb the gene from the surrounding medium. And also there are specific sites on the bacterial cell which helps in absorption, right? So this absorption does not take place from anywhere on the cell wall of the bacterial cell, right? So there are certain receptor sites, certain specific places on the bacterial cell from where the bacteria absorbs the genetic material from outside the medium, right? So that's about the second type, that is transformation. And we come to the last type, which is known as transduction, right? The third type is transduction. Now here what happens is a vector is involved, right? Now what is a vector? Vector is let's say a character that brings something from somewhere into the other host, right? That is a vector. If you remember, you've studied about vector-borne diseases, right? Disease caused by biting of some other living organism, right? So that living organism transfers the, we can say, the pathogenic microorganism into our body. So those are the vectors, and that is the vector-borne disease, right? Now when we talked about transformation, transformation does not require any other living organism to transfer the gene, right? So in transformation, the bacteria, wherever it is found, surrounded by some medium, it absorbs the genetic material on its own. It does not require any help. Now here what happens in transduction, a particular vector is involved, and the vector is always a virus, right? So a bacterial cell is there, right? That's the bacterial cell, and attached to this is the vector, which is the virus, right? The virus has its own genetic material, right? And what it does is that when it enters the body of the first host, right, it comes in contact with the genetic material of the host, right? And the virus divides very fast when inside a host body, right? Very quick copies of a virus can be made. Now when it has taken some part, some genetic part into its own, then what happens? Quickly there are many, let's say, copies of the virus there in the cell, right? Let's see, these are the copies, right? So from one, there are many copies of the genetic material, host genetic material made inside the cell. Now what happens is, now this virus which is forming copies inside the host cell is actually not a virulent virus. Virulent means it does not cause any disease, right? And now when it enters another host, it carries the genetic material of one host to another host, right? So in the body of another host, then that gene which it has taken from the first host, it can transfer it to the second host, right? So that is about transduction. So today we talked about reproduction also in bacteria, in which we talked about asexual and sexual reproduction. In asexual we discussed binary fission and sporulation, and under sexual reproduction we talked about conjugation, transformation and transduction, right? We come to another part, a very, very important part of eubacteria, and related to these there are questions that are asked in the medical examinations as well, right? So we will talk about cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria, also known as blue green algae, right? Now remember, we are talking about this living organism, this group under kingdom Monera, which consists of only bacteria. So whether it's Archaebacteria or the eubacteria, only bacteria, right? So cyanobacteria, the word cyano is from the color blue, right? So that is why they are known as blue-green algae, right? Now actually it's a bacteria, photosynthetic bacteria. It's an aquatic bacteria, right? Aquatic means found in water. It is a photosynthetic bacteria. Again, photosynthetic means it can perform photosynthesis and manufacture its own food, right? And then it is an algae. Why it is called an algae? Because morphologically, body appearance wise, it resembles a little with algae, right? So that is why it is called a blue-green algae. But actually, blue-green algae is not an algae. It is not an algae, right? So it is a bacteria, right? So related to this only the questions asked in the medicals, like blue-green algae contains blue pigment, red pigment, or it is red in color or blue in color or green in color, right? Or it is a blue algae, green algae, red algae, or a bacteria, right? So it is a bacteria, it is not an algae. Now these blue-green algae, they are unicellular, but they are not found alone. They are found in colonies. Colonies means a group, and the colony is so big that it becomes visible, right? A single bacterium will not be visible, but it forms such large colonies that the blue-green algae or the cyanobacteria is visible, right? And they are of course covered with a mucilage covering, right? And they are the oldest known fossils, living fossils that are there, still found around 3.5 billion years old, right? These are 3.5 billion years ago also these cyanobacteria was found, and then they are present even to this day. It's an amazing thing, right? That they imagine 3.5 billion years ago how different the earth was, right? And now how different the earth is, and still even in these different conditions, environmental conditions, they are able to survive. That is why they are the oldest known fossils, right? And still there with us. Largest group of fossils, right? They are the largest group of bacteria, right? And then there are two types of cyanobacteria that you will come across in your book: Nostoc and Anabaena, right? Nostoc and Anabaena. Talking about Nostoc, these are again found in colonies, right? And they are composed of filaments of monoliform cells. Monoliform cells. Now, what are these monoliform cells? It is like it looks like a beaded necklace, right? So it is shaped. It's a cylindrical structure. You all must have seen a necklace with beads, right? So what does it look like? If we have a string and then there are beads attached, right? So something like this the necklace would look like, right? Or we can say it is something like constriction, right? These depressions. If you look at a necklace, the bead ends here, there is a depression, then again the bead, again it ends here at a depression, bead and depression, and like this, right? So a nostoc actually looks like this, and it is covered with a mucilage layer outside, very thin mucilage layer. I have drawn a broader one, and then you will find certain structures inside which are called heterocyst. Right, now these are the structures which help in nitrogen fixation, right? So what is Anabaena and Nostoc known for? They are known for nitrogen fixation, right? The atmospheric nitrogen they fix, right? And then the nitrogen directly from the atmosphere, the organisms, we cannot use nitrogen, right? So these organisms, they fix the atmospheric nitrogen into compounds of nitrogen which can be used by the plants, right? So these are the nitrogen fixing bacteria, right? So what are they? They are these two, they are the nitrogen fixing bacteria. Right, so you've studied about the nitrogen cycle also in the previous classes, right? So the nitrogen fixing bacteria are Nostoc and Anabaena. So that's about eubacteria, right? And questions related to cyanobacteria, I told you, they are blue-green algae. So what kind of an algae? They are red algae, blue algae, green algae, right? Or they are bacteria. So I told you they are not algae, they are bacteria, right? So that would be the correct answer. And then about nitrogen fixing bacteria, right? So give examples of nitrogen fixing bacteria. Maybe it's a multiple choice question where some examples, some names of the organisms are given, and you have to identify that out of those which one is the nitrogen fixing bacteria. So questions related to this is asked in the in your class 11th exam also, as well as in the medicals, right? Now bacteria, they are found everywhere, right? Cosmopolitan, right? Then we said that bacteria is pathogenic also. Pathogenic means it can cause disease also, right? So it acts as a pathogen, so it is pathogenic. And then we discussed that, if you remember, I told you about a symbiotic bacteria, Escherichia coli, present in our body, right? And if they are pathogenic, then they are disease causing also, right? So bacteria are useful also and they are harmful also, right? So quickly we'll just go through a little bit of the economic importance of bacteria, right? Economic importance of bacteria. So talking about the economic importance of bacteria, I told you they are harmful bacteria as well as useful bacteria, right? So harmful bacteria, what do? They can spoil food, right? So under harmful we can say that they spoil food, right? They spoil food. So if this food is left open and the bacteria, they attack on that, so they can spoil the food also. Then it leads to food poisoning. You must have heard of that. Poisoning, right? You must have heard of the term botulism, right? So botulism is food poisoning, right? So that is another harmful effect of bacteria. And then there are many diseases, bacterial diseases. Bacterial diseases caused in plants, in animals as well as in humans, right? So they we won't go into the detail of the diseases. So we would say that they are disease causing bacteria, right? So disease in plants, animals and humans, right? So that's about the harmful bacteria. Now bacteria, as I told you, they are not only harmful but they are beneficial also, or they are useful also, right? So quickly we'll just go through that how bacteria is useful, right? So when we talk about useful bacteria, if you remember, we talked about mode of nutrition, right? In one type was they are parasites, and then we said they are saprophytes also. So they are nature's scavengers. They help in decomposing, right? So they act as decomposers, right? And that is how they clean the environment. So they are that is their role in agriculture also, and they make the soil more rich and more fertile by decomposing, right? So and then you'll find many different nitrifying bacteria, nitrogen fixing bacteria. That is again how they are helpful, right? There are some saprophytic bacteria that convert the refuse, dung and other organic waste into manure, right? So they convert things into manure. They help in the formation of manure, right? They are used in gobar gas plants, etc. They are also used in the dairy industry, right? So they are used in the dairy industry. Lactic acid bacteria is the bacteria that is used in the dairy industry which helps in converting milk sugar into lactic acid. Like we talk about coagulating of milk proteins, right? So this converts milk into yogurt, right? This is what we do in the summers also. We buy milk and we can convert it into yogurt, right? So that is by the action of this lactic acid bacteria, right? And then they are used in the industries also for the preparation of vinegar, right? For the preparation of if you remember in class 6, you must have studied about retting of fibers. You know, fibers are, pulled out, they are bundled and they are kept in water, right, where retting takes place, right? So there is a kind of these bacteria, what do is they separate the fibers. So that is what is retting, right? So they help in retting. They also help in curing the leaves, right? Curing the leaves, right? So what is curing the leaves? The taste of the tea that we get in the tea leaves, or the taste of tobacco. I haven't tasted tobacco, but definitely it must be having some taste. That is why it is used by people, and they like it so much because they're not much bothered about their health probably, right? So that is why they take that tobacco, right? So whatever taste of tobacco leaves or the taste of tea leaves, that taste is due to the action of bacteria on the leaves, right? So again, they're used as antibiotics, they're used as vitamins also. So they also have some medicinal use. Used as antibiotics and vitamins, right? So that's about the bacteria kingdom Monera, and in 2 classes we completed kingdom Monera. We talked about Archaebacteria, their types, and then in detail we also in this class talked about Eubacteria or the true bacteria. Right, that's about it for today. Again, you will find some questions in this class itself. So please go through the questions and do the assignment in your notebook, whatever notebook you've prepared for biology. Do it and again post it in the WhatsApp group, the biology WhatsApp group, so that I can go through it, right? And I've seen that there are many students who are not attending the classes. So children, it's very, very important, because when you will come back to the school after the lockdown, it is you who will be at a loss. Now, it won't be possible for us to teach everything in detail once again, because just try to understand the time period will be lesser then, right? So we will have to complete the other lessons also. Although we will go through it, whatever problems you have, you can discuss it and we will try to solve the problem. But still, it is very, very important for each and every student to attend all the classes. And it's you are comfortable, you are there at home, at any time you can attend the classes, right children? So do attend the classes, and all the best. Thank you.